Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Great question. My favorite wrestler of all time. Man, it's like too many options. That's almost like a trick question. How do you choose out of so many awesome names? Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Rowdy Rowd Piper, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, there's just too many to choose from. But I think at the end of the day, I'm still going to have to land with the People's Champ. The Brahma Bull, my man, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Man, I mean, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? You jabroni. I mean, jabroni is now a part of the English language, all because of The Rock. I think what's amazing about his story for me is how he became The Rock. First, it took a failure for him to become The Rock. He was actually angling towards becoming an NFL star, had a very good collegiate career at the University of Miami. And this brother gets an injury late in his matriculation through the University of Miami, like around senior year. I know he was an upperclassman for sure. And the injury is such that it kind of sidelines him. I mean, he can't go to the NFL Combine. Scouts are a little iffy on him and whether he'll be able to recover and still be the athlete he was. I mean, all of this is what he's up against. And this brother just says, okay, what's next? What now? And he goes towards the WWE World Wrestling Entertainment. And it's not easy when he first gets there. If I gave an audience a challenge, listen, I'll give $1,000 to the person right now who can tell me what was The Rock's first name. Nobody would probably be able to stand up and say, hey, it was Flex Cavana. Okay, what was his second name? It was Rocky Maivia. Nobody could tell you that. You know why? Because those characters don't matter. No one really saw them. No one really connected with them. No one really saw that character as one that really portrayed who Dwayne Johnson was in the ring. Therefore, they are forgotten individuals. I don't know about 20% maybe of individuals in the world, maybe they feel like they are significant, they matter. But maybe tonight you feel like you're more of Rocky Maivia or Flex Cavana. Maybe tonight you're trying to find The Rock in you. Thank you very much and welcome out to night one of Wrestlemania, where we are going to be taking on one of the most profound questions that can be asked. Are you wrestling with God? This wrestling experience with God does take on many forms, will take on a few different facets. We'll be discussing topics anywhere from wrestling with me to wrestling with life. But all of it is going to entail this wrestling journey that we're going to have to take with God. I mean, we want to get close to Him, but we can't see Him. We want to be intimate with Him, but we can't necessarily hear Him. All of these things cause humans to be in this wrestling match with God. And we're going to try to help each and every individual that tunes in this week to kind of get over that hump and understand their wrestling journey. Now, I believe the Bible has provided a manual for how to wrestle well with God. This manual can be found in Genesis, the 32nd chapter. And throughout this week, we're going to be traveling from verses 22 all the way down to verse 30. We're going to be looking at Jacob and how he had to fight with God. He wrestled with his angel, and the Bible said he was victorious. So I believe as we look at Jacob and seek out victory, we'll be able to understand all the steps that he took to get to that victory place. And so this evening, we're going to start our journey simply looking at 2 verses. We're going to just be tackling only 2 out of 22 through 30, and that is going to be verse 23 and also verse 24. There in Genesis, the 32nd chapter, if you just look there with me, and we're going to read these verses through the glasses of the New Living Translation. It reads there, after taking them to the other side. That them is talking about all of his family and his possessions. He sent over all of his things. This left Jacob all alone in the camp. And a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. That's going to be very important for our discussion this evening. He didn't just wrestle, but he wrestled until the dawn began to break. So this evening we're going to be focused on wrestling alone. Wrestling alone. It is interesting that my favorite part of the WWF, see, when I started watching wrestling matches, it wasn't the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment. No. It was the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. Okay? And you also had the WCW, World Championship Wrestling. And we had characters like Sting and Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Hacksaw's Jim Duggan, Rowdy Rowd Piper, and one of my favorites back in the late 80s, my man Coco Beware, who always had his friendly parrot on his shoulder. I mean, we had all of these personalities. And yes, it was cool when there was one guy fighting another guy. When it was Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan and all of Hulkamania. It was cool when the Ultimate Warrior went up against Macho Man, Randy Savage. That stuff was great. But my favorite were the tag team matches. I love the drama that's created when a guy's just getting beat down, and they're usually trying to keep him away from his safe corner, the corner where his teammate is, right? And so the whole time you'll see him reaching out like this, and then he'll get hit over the head, and he'll reach out again, and he'll get kicked in the side, and all he wants to do is tag up with his buddy, right? And then his buddy the whole time is leaning over the ropes, and he's like, come on, and then he'll look at the crowd, and he'll say, come on, please, come on, you know, he'll get some kind of chant going on, and finally, with the last bit of muscle and strain and energy that he has, he'll dive and make the tag, and then his buddy will come in and just start wrecking up shop. See, I believe we all wish life was like that. I think we all wish that when we get to these helpless points in our life, that we could simply look up to a corner and see a buddy there reaching over the ropes, getting the crowd into it, say, come on, please. You know, we just wish there was that motivator that's in that corner rooting for our success. But check this out. Jacob does not have that. And many of us don't have that. Many times our wrestling is going to start at a very lonely place. And this can be very, very, very much sad. It could be something that stops us in our tracks. It could even be something that discourages us from continuing on the journey. I'm reading here in verse 23, and it says, after taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob doesn't only lose family, friends, camaraderie, support. He also loses things. Now, this is major for our discussion this evening because I think we medicate the loss of support with stuff. I think that happens when we don't see someone in that corner reaching that hand over the ropes, trying to motivate us to continue on and be positive. I think that's when we turn to other stuff, other things to try to fill that void. So some of us got credit card debt this evening. And others of us got too many clothes this evening. And some of us have way too many video games this evening. And that's simply because we're trying to fill this hole inside with something that can push us forward, get us over the hump. But check this out. Jacob didn't just lose people. Jacob lost things too. See, loneliness, or the state of being lonely, I think can best be understood by this definition. When one individual loses everything they usually turn to for support, that is when they are lonely. When you look around and at all four corners of your ring of life, there is nothing. There's no championship belt over there to motivate you. There's no tag team partner over here to motivate you. There is nothing. All you have is darkness. For verse 24 says, this left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him. I want us to focus in on what English grammar would call a demonstrative pronoun, all right? Demonstrative pronouns are things that you use when you're trying to point out something emphatically, like those people or that over there. Well, the Bible uses one of these demonstrative pronouns when it says, this left Jacob. What is the this? The this is the abandonment of everything I've been leaning on. The abandonment of all of my support systems, the abandonment of anything that could bail me out right now, that's gone. This left Jacob all alone. As we start breaking down this loneliness thing, I want you to understand that all loneliness has a starting place. A lot of people don't stop to take in the fact that not only are they lonely, but it started somewhere. I think if we could actually trek back through the annals of our history and figure out what was it that first pricked this loneliness inside. Why do I feel this void? Why is nothing satisfying me? And why is God taking everything from me? If we actually take the time to use this lonely, helpless place to do some introspection, I think we may find something that we thought was helping us, but God saw was hurting us. When it says this left Jacob all alone, it's pointing to something in particular. There is something tonight that is threatening your intimacy with God. And your story would read, and this. I don't know what this is, but it would just simply say, and this. And this is keeping them away from me. And this is separating me from them. And this is keeping my salvation from being able to do a mighty work in their life. This is very important. So as I read the story, and I'm looking at Jacob about to have this wrestling match with an unknown character, I am thankful that God first allowed him to be separated from this. We got to be thankful sometimes in our loneliness. See, loneliness comes out of being at a place where we no longer have something alternate to lean on, some alternative to turn to. See, that's when this becomes so important. So usually individuals will look at this story and interpret it as this is negative. But instead tonight, I want us to kind of turn our focus to seeing this as the act of God separating Jacob from things that will keep him from taking on these separating points. We got to take them on. So I'm excited that the story says this left Jacob all alone in the camp. But then it says, and a man came and wrestled with him. Now, loneliness usually places us in a victimized state. And this kind of hurts us as we move forward because victims usually request pity, but they usually are not requesting performance. See, pity is a bailout. Pity is an excuse. Performance is when someone says, it doesn't matter. Performance says, I'm going to push through anyway. I'm going to persevere. See, that's what performance says. But pity says, no, I'm out of here. See, I'm just the victim. Can I get a handout? Can somebody please slide a couple bucks my way? No, I don't want to get a job. I've tried to do all of that. What I really need is you to just kind of give me some of what you have so that I can feel a little bit better where I am. So Jacob is now wrestling with a guy who is challenging his victimized state. So at this point, he could either decide, I'm a victim. I'm just going to put my hands up. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to say, hey, bro, I don't have anything. I sent everything across the river. I can show you how to get there if you want it. He can dime out all of his family and his kids. He could try to barter and say, listen, in the morning, man, I got this Esau thing coming at me. Listen, I'll take care of you. I'll give you as much silver as you want. I got cattle for days. He can start negotiating with his challenge because he feels victimized. Is anybody negotiating tonight? Are they negotiating with their challenge? Or instead of looking for pity, are you saying, no, I'm going to perform anyways? See, a man is coming, and I believe it was a sneak attack. I think he hit him with a sucker punch. It's dark, and he's all alone. I don't think this guy yelled out, hey, I'm coming for you, and then Jacob just prepared himself. I actually think this man came around the corner, got him in a compromised position, and in that split second, Jacob had to decide, am I going to perform or request pity? He was separated from this. He was separated from the family. He was separated from all of his possessions. And now there's one decision. Am I going to perform? I want to challenge everyone tonight to perform. Regardless of your state, regardless of your emotional, mental, or spiritual health, I need you to perform. There's something to be gained from an individual who perseveres and just decides, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to push through this challenge. But please beware. Do not put a time limit on your pushing. Because the verse says in verse 24, and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. See, a lot of times I look at boxing and I say, you know what? Boxers have an advantage over wrestlers. See, boxers only fight for a specific period of time, right? You have 3-minute rounds with 1-minute breaks in between. So in my mind, all I have to do is get set for a battle that's going to last 3 minutes. And then I know I'm going to get 1 minute of rest, 1 minute of recovery. And then when I stand up to duke it out again, I know that it's only for 3 more minutes. While I'm fighting, the fact that my time is kind of checking down gives me the motivation and the courage to continue. But when I look at Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart at Wrestlemania, nobody knows how long that fight is going to last. When I look at The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, nobody knows how long that's going to last. When I look at The Big Show versus The Undertaker, we all get on the edge of our seats, but nobody knows how long it's going to last. This is the spiritual battle. See, spiritual battles are more like wrestling matches than boxing matches. And therefore, you don't have this clock ticking down in your head trying to encourage you and say, hey, you're almost there. You're almost done. You've almost reached the finish line. As you wrestle with being alone and being separated from the things that you have used to medicate your desire to feel fulfilled, understand that there is no time limit. I don't think Jacob went into his fight believing that he was going to fight all night. When it says that he wrestled with him until the dawn began to break, you can imagine that the wrestling match probably started with a headlock. And then it went to a sleeper hold. And then it continued to a full Nelson. And then a half Nelson. And then it went to a suplex and a body slam. And he jumped off the ropes. And he even went ahead and put him in the cross-face crippler. And the figure 4 leg lock. I mean, he's pulling out all the stops. The stone cold stutter. The diamond cutter. I mean, he's doing everything. The angle slam. And nothing is working. So then he says, I know what needs to happen. I need to give him that rock bottom, or I need to give him the Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you know, and I'm looking for all of these moves. Hey, I'm just going to pick up a chair now, and I'm going to use a 4x4. I'm going to put him on a table and knock him down on that. He tried everything, and all he knows is this brother's not going anywhere. Some of you have tried to do everything, and that issue is not going anywhere. So we think that that is the sign that we are defeated, that is the sign when we are overmatched. But I want to suggest that when you wrestle alone and it is just not ending, that is a sign that God is trying to build within you perseverance. The only ding that Jacob heard, really, the only ding that Jacob saw was the sun rising. He fought all night. Nobody cued him in to the fact that this would be an 8-hour wrestling bout. I don't even know how his stamina kept up for that long, to wrestle for 8 hours. But what I do know is he didn't know how long he would be asked to fight. We don't know how long we're going to have to wrestle with our issues. We don't know how long that besetting sin is going to still be over our head. And we don't know how long it's going to take before God answers our prayer. But my challenge to everyone tonight is, don't look at the lack of time increment to say, I'm going to throw in the towel. This is not my fight. No, it is your fight. Because at the end of it, if you do endure, you'll find a blessing there. I believe that the wrestling matches of our spiritual warfare can be described as this. You will hop in with an opponent. Many times you will not have the benefit of having someone come in and help you out. You won't have a time increment that you're pushing for. But check this out. Wrestlers get paid win or lose. Wrestlers get paid just by getting TKO'd, getting up, walking to the locker room. You know, they're stumbling, they're doing their acting, you know. When they get around the corner and the cameras are off, they're like, whoo, that was tough, man. Hey, good match, good match. Where's my check? See, they understand that the goal is just to stay in the fight, to just see it to the end, to make sure that we first get the cue from the referee that fight is over. They understand that it's not about winning, it's just about finishing. See, if I finish, I get paid. But if for some reason I quit in the middle, there is no payday for me, and all the energy I've expended to that point is just wasted time. See, spirituality is the same. We are going to get paid as long as we endure. We are going to get paid as long as we keep wrestling. We are going to get paid as long as we don't quit. The race is going to be given to he that endureth to the end. I'm going to run with patience the race that is set before me. See, the Bible is very clear. God is not looking for winners. He's looking for those who endure. So as I'm looking at the text, verse 24, and he wrestled with him until the dawn began to break, it does give me encouragement to recognize that the fight does end. There is an ending point. So don't look at your struggle and issue and think to yourself, hey, it's never going to quit. It's never going to end. I'm never going to get bailed out. That is not true. The dawn does break. And this is why I believe the word says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. See, there's a time when it breaks. There is a ding of the bell. There is a match is over. There's a moment when you are victorious. But you got to push for it. You got to want it. You got to desire it. You have to accept the fact that many times our spiritual walk does call us to wrestle alone. But that does not matter as long as we finish. Do not let a victimized mindset come over you and get you to quit because you think there's no way out. There is a dawn that breaks. There is a time of ending, and there is a time of blessing. So my challenge to all of those who are viewing this evening is, hey, take hold of courage. Let the joy of the Lord be your strength. That joy is simply there's a bailout. There's a time when you are saved. There's a time when God speaks something beautiful into your life and he changes around the circumstance. But you must embrace the loneliness. You must accept the fact that God is trying to separate you from things that are keeping you guys apart from each other. And he'll go through great lengths to do so because his number one focus and goal is to be reunited with you. But that intimacy cannot come about until each and every one of us decide to continue and endure. I am here to tell you I've had some wrestling bouts and I love to watch wrestling matches. But there's one thing I have learned, and that is the power of endurance.
There will be a time in everyone's life when family is not there for you, when the church is not even there for you. And at Riverside, we want to remind people that God will never leave you nor forsake you. Even in Jacob's story, he was alone, but he was wrestling actually with God. God was there, not just superintending the process. God was all in the process. Jesus said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. It may feel like you're wrestling alone, but you are actually in this thing with God. And we want to remind people that Jesus will never leave you nor forsake you. You are always with God.